This is Engage New York, Module 1, Lesson 8, 1-8. Here is concept development. All right. So we are going to round 49.67 to the nearest 10. So I have given you this place value chart if you need it. That way you can place the numbers inside the place value chart if you need to. You don't have to use it. This is simply if you need it and you want to use it. So let's start with step 1. So I'm going to try to fit step 1 over here. Step 1. Where does 49 and 67 hundredths live? Between what two numbers? All right. So between the nearest 10. So we are going to find 40 and 50. This number 49.67 lives between the tens of 40 and 50. Step 2. Find the midpoint. So what is our midpoint? Again? So yes, but 45 is our midpoint. Now, step 3, where does 49.67 fit on the number line? Yes, you guys are absolutely correct. It's going to fit above our midpoint. So 49.67 is going to fit above our midpoint. So since part 4, step 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, step 4. Since 49.67 is above the midpoint, we round. Show me in what direction with your thumbs. Show me with your thumbs the direction that we're going to round. Up or down? Yes, you guys are absolutely correct. 49.67 is going to round to 50 because 49.67 is closer to 50 than it is to 40. So we're going to round up to 50. All right. Going to problem 2. Decompose. And when I say decompose means to pull the number apart into its pieces, into its place value pieces. So you can just write that in here and then round to the nearest 10th and to the nearest 100th. So that means you are concentrating on the 10th place value place. So that means when you're rounding to the 10th, the question you ask yourself is, does the 10th remain the same or does it increase? That is the big idea. When you're rounding to the 100th, you ask yourself, this 100th, does it remain the same or does it increase? Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute and I want you to try this by yourself and then we're going to come back and debrief on it. Ready? All right, so decomposing the number, thinking about tenths, where does 9.949 live on this number line between what two numbers, thinking about the tenths? So hopefully you identified 9.9 and 10. Between those two numbers, and notice I've included the tenths because that's what we are rounding to, tenths. So step 2, find midpoint. So our midpoint is 9.95. Yes? Excellent. So 9.95. Okay, step 3. Where does 9.949 live or fit? Let's go fit on the number line. Okay, so where does it fit? It fits. I'm going to go orange. I'm going to go hot pink. What the heck? It's going to fit in 9.94. 4 is below 5. 9. Step 4. Since 9.949 is below the midpoint, we round down to the nearest, let's just say 9.9, which is the nearest tenth. How did that go for you? So, because we're rounding to the nearest hundreds on this next one, we're going to include the hundredths on our number line. Okay, so I need to make some room here. All right, so now we're rounding to the nearest hundredth. So that means we have to include hundredths. So the nearest hundredths, well, the smallest hundredth that we are going to have to worry about is 9.94. That is our smallest hundredth. So 9.94. And then on the other side of that is going to be 9.9. Show me with your fingers. We're going to go to 9.95. We're just going to go to 9.95. So between 9.94 and 9.95. Now, step 2. Find the midpoint. So you are absolutely correct. We are going to have 9.945 as our midpoint. Now, step 3, where does this fit on the number line? It's going to sit, is it going to sit above or below our midpoint? 9.949. It's going to sit right here, 9.949 is where it sits. Now, question. So, does it round up to 9.95 or round down to 9.94? Up or down? Show me with your fingers. You guys, excellent. It rounds up because it's closer. It's above that midpoint. Excellent, excellent job. Okay, problem 3 of our concept development. A decimal number has 1 digit to the right of the decimal. So think about that. A decimal number has 1 digit to the right of the decimal. Yes, 1 digit to the right of the decimal. If we round this number to the nearest whole number, so if this number rounds to the nearest whole number, the result is going to equal 27. So what are the maximum and minimum possible values of these two numbers? Use the number line to show your reasoning. Include the midpoint on the number line. All right, so this one is definitely something that you're going to have to think about. All right, so the maximum and the minimum. So what are the maximum and the minimum possible? Now think about this for a second. You have a number and you don't know this number, but you know that when this number on this side of the decimal and it rounds up, that number equals 27. That's all you know. You know a decimal number has one digit to the right of the decimal point. If we round this number to the nearest whole number, if it rounds up, it ends up equaling 27. So, what is the maximum? What is the minimum possible values of these two numbers? So what would be the minimum number? What would be the maximum number? That would round up to 27. Think about that for just a second before we start with the process. So we're going to think about maximum. So step 1, create a number line. Done. Step 2, so our maximum has to be 27. Okay? So step 1, create the number line. Step 2, find number line. Step 2, let's find the midpoint. But before we can find the midpoint, we have to label and figure out between what two numbers is this number going to live. So if we go from 27 to 28, because we're talking about whole numbers, what would our midpoint be between 27 and 28? What is that midpoint? Excellent, excellent. 27.5. Now, step 3. Where does our number, the number that we're working with, live? So our number would have to be, if our maximum number, it would have to be 27.4 would round to 27. Anything from 27.4 down would round to 27. So, step 4, the max our questionable number can be, is 27.4 because it rounds down to 27. We're looking for the maximum you can run up to before it would switch over. Like the maximum the number could be before it would switch over would be 27.4. 27.4 is the maximum this mysterious number could be and still round to 27. Now, the minimum. We're moving to the minimum. So our minimum would have to equal, I'm going to switch colors. Oops. Our minimum would have to be 26. Can you see that? Or do I need to get a darker pen? All right. So our minimum could be 26. So let's think about step 1. Create the number line. But when we create the number line, we have to put our minimum and our maximum on here. So our 26 up to 27. Now, step 2, find the midpoint. So our midpoint between 26 and 27 is 26.5 is our midpoint. Now, step 3, where does our number live? Now, our number is 27. Sorry, just kidding. It's 26. Our number that we're working with is going to have to be somewhere in between 26 and 27. So our number, I wonder where it could live. Where do you think our number, if our number is going to round up, because this one we did the maximum. Now we're on the minimum. The minimum it can be in order to be at 27 is going to be what? Remember, anything from 5 or above is going to round up. So absolutely 26.6 is definitely going to push us to 27. For sure. 26.5. Okay.
Because if you round up, it's still going to be 27.
Exactly. So I'm gonna start recording again. 26.5. A minimum it could be is 26.5 because it rounds up to 27. It took me a minute to like wrap my head around what, because minimum and maximum seems like I was trying to wrap my head around those ideas. And now that you have to keep talking to yourself to work this out. So 26.5 is the minimum, the minimum it would have to be in order to round up to 27. The maximum it could be to round to 27 is 27.4. We are now moving on to problem set. So I am going to give you 10 minutes to work on problems 1 through 3 independently, and then we're going to come back for debrief. But let me just quickly go over the questions before I set you free. So write the decomposition if that helps you. Then round to the given place value. Draw a number line. Remember, you're going to use your number line to explain your thinking. Circle the rounded value on each number line. So following our steps 1 through 4, you are going to complete A. You are going to complete B. So this one you're rounding to the nearest 10th, 100th, and 1 whole number. 10th, 100th, and 10th, 100th, 10, and 100. So remember, this one you're going to actually have 4 number lines. This one you're going to have 3 number lines. On problem 2, a root beer factory produces 132,554 cases in 100 days. About how many cases does the factory produce in 1 day? So round your answer to the nearest tenth of a case. Show your thinking on a number line. So if this is 100 days, about how many cases does the factory produce in 1 day? Then I feel like you have to divide that equally, right? Problem 3, a decimal number has 2 digits to the right of the decimal point. Okay, this goes back to what we were doing on problem 3. If we round to the nearest tenth, the result is here. What is the maximum possible value for this number? And include the midpoint on your number line. So you want to go through the 4 steps that we went through on problem 3. Now, what is the minimum possible value of the decimal? Again, showing the midpoint and going through steps 1, 2, 3, 4 to show your work. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 problems to work on in the next 10 minutes. Then we'll come back for a debrief.